all. Welcome back to All for United WFC. Oh, we're 48 hours away, aren't we? Well, less than that now, really, aren't we? Oh, it's the big one. We're at Man United v Chelsea, obviously at Kingsmeadow at the weekend. Everybody is talking about this. I've got friends that don't even follow women's football that are talking about this. Like, oh, haven't United women's team got some big game at the weekend? I'm like, some big game? That's downplaying it a little bit, but there we are. We've got Alex and Nancy joining us this week. Thank you very much both for joining us. I'm sure you're going to be great over the course of the next hour or so as we dissect what we think is going to happen, and we're probably all going to be wrong come Monday morning when we do the next show on this, but we are, because that's usually how these things go. I don't know where to start, really. I'll come to you, Nancy, first, actually, in terms of what you're thinking ahead of the game. What's the thoughts from both worlds, really? Because I know you're obviously an Arsenal fan as well, but you also got your journalist side as well. Where's your kind of head with this game from both perspectives?
Yeah, I think obviously just the magnitude of it is pretty massive. I think it would be fair to call it maybe not a title decider, but I think whoever wins this becomes the firm favourite in the title race. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, quite a lot of importance riding on it because of that. I think there's also the fact that, I'm sure we'll get into this as well, that United have never beaten Chelsea before in the 8 matches that they've played. So I think it's kind of, are we seeing maybe a bit of a power shift in the Women's Super League, or like, the end of the domination of certain clubs? From an Arsenal perspective, it's a bit of a weird one, really, because we've kind of fallen out of the title race. And it's essentially a case of kind of like, best case scenario is we just want to draw both teams to drop points and then hopefully get back in it. But yeah, I'm super excited for it as a neutral and both an Arsenal fan, because I think it's in fairness, I'd say probably the 2 best teams in the Women's Super League. Like, I don't think Arsenal have really kind of matched Chelsea and Man U this season so far. So yeah, I'm super excited for it.
100%. There's a couple of people mentioning the mental block from United, so we're going to get to that in a little bit as well. But Alex, I could throw it over to you from a Chelsea point of view. I mean, you must be confident, right? I know that United obviously are currently sat top, but as Nancy said, United have never beaten Chelsea. We've never actually taken a point from Kingsmeadow either in our short existence. So from a Chelsea point of view, are you pretty confident going into this, or have you got some nerves?
I mean, I don't want to get too overconfident because, yes, Chelsea are a good side. United are also equally in good form. I think a lot of fans got ahead of themselves last weekend in the Conti Cup final, thinking that Chelsea were just going to absolutely hammer Arsenal. Didn't quite go to plan for Chelsea. We didn't play well. We didn't deserve to win, so fair play to Arsenal. I just think Chelsea are in, like, it's very, I don't know how to describe it, but March is a very much make or break month for Chelsea. They want to play both. They've played Arsenal twice within a week, end of February, beginning of March. They'll play Manchester United, Manchester City, and they've got to play Lyon in the Champions League. So something's got to give. And yes, we have got a good squad, but like, it's just been announced there in the press that Emma Hayes most likely won't be on the touchline because she's not well. Johanna Ritten-Canrad's also not well. Frank Kirby's still out. Pernilla Harder's still out. So there are injuries. But this is the beauty of having a squad and squad depth, because then if something like this does happen, then, there is backup options. It's going to be interesting to see how Lauren James is used, because obviously she did all right against Arsenal in the Conti Cup final. Perhaps so at times her decision-making wasn't quite there, then was taken out of the matchday squad and put on the subs bench, didn't come on against Brighton. But I think Chelsea sort of sent a message say, like, yeah, we played badly in the Conti Cup, but, I think with the men also winning against Dortmund the day before, that kind of helped seize momentum for the women's team, because they wanted to probably match what had happened at the Bridge the day before. So I am slightly confident, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself because United are in good form.
That's certainly it, and I know Barry's going to elaborate on that question in a little bit. There is a Joseph, I did see you watching the show yesterday about our combined 11. Disappointed. We're actually going to get to that. I'm going to bring the combined 11 on and let these three have their say, and you guys in the comments, because obviously yesterday wasn't live. Me, Rob, and David had to film that a little bit earlier, so I will let some of you have your say on that in terms of who you disagree with. But I thought it was pretty balanced. To be fair, it was 5 and 6 if you haven't seen it already. So I will bring that on screen in just a second. Barry, from a United point of view, and how are you feeling now we're close to the game? We've been talking about this all week, even on the match reaction on Monday that we did. We were talking about this game. And to be fair, we've been talking about this game since the last time we played Chelsea, let's be honest. You know, you've been saying all along, we win every single game, we win the league, which obviously mathematically is correct. And this is probably the toughest of all of them. So how are you feeling going into this one?
Well, first of all, Connor, I'm a big fan of maths because, you know, it's either right or it's wrong. So, you know, nobody can have a go at me that. Factually, I was correct. Yes, and I've spent this entire year of this podcast sitting here claiming that we were going to win the league. I said it from day one. And people thought I was joking and people thought I was having a laugh. But I think the point I was trying to make was that we were going to be in a title race this year. We've seen them trying it over the last couple of years and not quite managing to get there. This season, I thought was the year we were going to give Chelsea, give Arsenal, give City a run for their money. I think today's the day to be real and to realise that it's not necessarily a league decider, but it is massive. If Manchester United win this game, I'd love to see what that does psychologically to Chelsea, because they've not lost a game since the start of the league season in the league against the nasty Liverpool. So I would love to see what that would do to them. Having said that, if we don't beat Chelsea, it'll be really interesting to see what it does to us as to whether or not we're then able to bounce back from that and maintain, or whether or not we're going to have that last third of the season blues, whereby we watch as other teams overtake us because we don't quite manage it. I don't think this is what we've got under Marc Skinner this year. I think we've got a team that have got the mentality. You saw it at the Emirates and the way they've performed there. We've seen it in so many games where we've had last-minute goals where we wouldn't necessarily have done before. The 1-0 wins, not conceding silly late goals for draws. 100% we're getting there. I'm excited for this game on Sunday. And the reason why I'm excited is because for me, this is the one where we really get to measure ourselves against Chelsea and see exactly where we are. Has it all been a big fairy tale? Have we all been duped? Or is it going to be what I think it is, which is going to be an absolute doozy of a football match?
I mean, well, I hope it's that anyway, just for the spectacle. You mentioned that, obviously, I'm going to get to this in a little bit as well, but yeah, you mentioned the game with the Emirates. That was actually the game after the Chelsea game. So yeah, we lost to Chelsea and then went to the Emirates and obviously beat Arsenal. Sorry, Nancy, for bringing that back up. But yeah, obviously went to the Emirates and beat Arsenal. I think the international break was actually sandwiched in the middle of that. That might have been the first game back after that. Something I wanted to come to then, obviously, I think it was just mentioned before about the cup final. Obviously, we got both representatives here. This is quite nice, actually. First time we've left to talk about this one. So, Nancy, I'll come back to you first. Well, from your point of view, what do you think went wrong for Chelsea? Because I think obviously they were pretty favourites going into that. And obviously, what do you think Arsenal exploited in that game to obviously get the win over Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, I was like very surprised. Not very surprised. I was surprised about the result. I wasn't expecting to win that one. But just kind of, I think in midfield we dominated massively. I think Kim Little and Leah Vulty were just incredible. Kind of the interceptions with players like Lauren James, and they were just getting nowhere. You know, it was. I think Emma Hayes mentioned it in the post-match press conference, but it was, you know, the one-on-one tackles, those situations where it was like, you know, both players going for the ball. We were seemingly coming out top on everything. And yeah, I do think as well, and I know this hasn't been said enough, but I do feel like Kirby not being injured is having a bit of an impact on Chelsea, because we saw last season that partnership was so effective, and there's times where it's not quite clicking for Chelsea, it seems. And I think just the real kind of intuitive. Can't say that word. You know what I'm trying to say. The intuition isn't it? Yeah, they use that for their partnership, and I think that was missing. I think there just seemed to be kind of a little like lack of connection between some of the strikers up top and stuff. And I think as well, it was in terms of what Arsenal were doing well, we were just more clinical, because I think when we played in the FA Cup match, that was the difference. Basically, it was Chelsea taking their chances and Arsenal weren't, and I think it was different. We had Blackstenius scoring, and I think we were just a bit more clinical. I'm not sure how much I buy into the idea of kind of like the mindset wasn't there from Chelsea. I know Hayes was kind of using that as the reason, and I do think there was more passion from Arsenal potentially, but I'm not sure if I buy into the mentality side of it. So I think, you know, going into this match at the weekend, if there's any kind of questions over the mentality side of it, I just can't see that being the case, because I feel like, you know, Chelsea always want to win. We always talk about them having this monster mentality and that kind of thing. So I think it did come down to kind of the players on the pitch. I think in midfield we won that battle, and that was crucial essentially, and then managed to be a bit more clinical as well, which was good. But yeah, I think if you stop players like Lauren James, as Wolty was doing so effectively, then you kind of, I think, can start, you know, just kind of minimising Chelsea's attacking threat.
No, I can't comment on the game, so didn't watch that particular one, so I can't actually comment on this one. But Alex, I'll throw it to you from a Chelsea point of view in terms of what you think went wrong. Nancy mentioned the midfield there, and obviously Emma Hayes spoke about mentality a little bit as well. What do you think went wrong from your point of view?
From the looks of things, it looked like only half the team really turned up. Millie Bright was pretty much everywhere in defence. She didn't really get much help. There were so many uncharacteristic mistakes from Magdalena Eriksson. She kept giving the ball away. She just seemed to be out of sorts. And I did agree with Hayes' point where she talked about the time wasting from the goalkeeper, from Zinsberger. However, I will say this. I think if you're going to punish Zinsberger, you have to punish Berger, because they were both time wasting like there was nobody's business. If you're going to, I think you should make it a rule like with the keepers, you know, just like if they are time wasting, you book all of them, not just one or two, because it's not really a very good tactic to use. But the one instance where Berger did kind of, when she did need medical attention the first time, I'll accept that, because Katie McCabe did like full on sort of body slam into her. So in that respect, she did kind of need medical attention. But at the same time, you kind of want your players to put their bodies on the line. I didn't really see that from Chelsea. Like, they scored within 2 minutes. It's pretty similar to what happened in the Conti Cup last season against City. Chelsea go 1-0 up, then they play okay, then they concede again in quick succession. So it's kind of like, what is going wrong there? Wherein if you go back to 1-1, why does it become such a problem if you then concede? It was just very, very sloppy. And I know a lot of Chelsea fans have sort of been going back and forth between Berger and Musovic, who's better. I don't know at this point in time, because they've both played well at times. I thought Musovic was very good against Arsenal at the Emirates. I thought she was one of our best players. But I feel like with Musovic, when she does get called into action, she does perform. Berger, we all know about her health issues off the pitch. Is it a case of sort of managing her more in a way where it's not too stressful for her? I don't know. But it was just a very good game from a Chelsea perspective, because even if you concede, it just seemed like there was a lack of fire in attack. I think from what I could see, only really Millie Bright, Erin Cuthbert, Sam Kerr, they were the only sort of ones who were doing something. And the fact that they were forcing Lauren James to shoot from so far out kind of paints a picture. I think I've said many a time that Lauren James is a phenomenal player, but she does need to have a bit more awareness with her decision making. And I think, you know, sometimes when it is a final, it's probably the first final she's played in for Chelsea, because she didn't play in the FA Cup last season. So obviously she might have been feeling a little bit of nerves. But with a club like Chelsea, you need to have that elite mentality, whether it's Chelsea, Arsenal, City, and even now United. You have to find a way that if your backs are up against the wall, you need to find a way to get through that passage of play and be able to, you know, fight through that hard time and go on and get the win.
No, you certainly raised some fair observations on that game. I think I'm going to have to do this combined 11 thing now, because there's a lot of comments saying that I put Russo in midfield when I didn't, and everything else. So I'm just going to clarify this. And Barry, you can start us off in terms of what changes you'd make. So I'm just going to bring this on screen. So that's the team that we did go for in the end. So this was picked. If you didn't watch yesterday's show, it was myself, obviously fighting the United corner, Rob, who people will know from this channel, fighting the Chelsea corner, and David Astill, who offered a neutral view. So we did it the fair way. We had 1-1 and 1 to make sure that it was fair. And this is the team that we went for. So as you can see there, Russo is clearly not in midfield. She is a second striker. Obviously, we had a lot of choices. We could have gone for Toon and other players that could have played there. But Barry, you obviously messaged yesterday saying that you agreed with 10 out of 11. So what was the change that you would make to that 11?
I mean, when I say I agree with 10 out of 11, what I meant was I could happily settle for 10 out of 11. I was quite content with that. I felt like it was done very fairly. As you said, everybody put their points forward. And I think what I liked about the show that you did yesterday, Connor, if I may just for a moment actually give you some credit for once rather than berating you as I normally do, was that actually it was really well thought out. Even the idea of putting Wrighton up top and therefore putting Carter at the back because she's going to be slightly more defensive, slightly more offensive and defensive, all those discussions you were having with regards to Blundell as well, I thought was really good. And I felt like for 10 out of 11 of those positions, you all explained yourself absolutely brilliantly. Having now given you all that wonderful credit, I now need to just pull that rug out from underneath you, Connor, because you said, and I quote, it's either Hayley Ladd or Katie Zenham in that central midfield slot. Hayley Ladd does a lot for us defensively. Katie Zenham, still your words, is, if she carries on, is up as a possible player of the season for Manchester United this season. Those are your words. And I'm sitting there going, well, surely he's going to say Katie Zenham then. He's got to. He's literally just talked himself into it. But yet somehow, even if I rub my eyes and check, hang on a second, let me just check. Cuddly Connor? Yes, indeed. You went Hayley Ladd. What's that all about? Listen, I love Hayley Ladd. I think she's an absolutely fantastic player. 100%. No problems with that whatsoever. But for me, Katie Zenham would have been in that spot with Hayley Ladd, especially, and you didn't have the benefit of that brilliant piece of journalistic fan-dabby doziness that was brought out about Katie Zenham having won the ball more times than a lot of people would have expected her to. So won the ball back, I think it was 130-something times, something she doesn't really get given a lot of credit for. So for me, Katie Zenham would have been there. But the question I wanted to throw out to our two wonderful friends was this, because another thing I've been thinking about a lot is that back five. And whilst I don't really, in the terms of what everyone was talking about and how they put the team together, have any dramas with it, we have got, again, maths, factually, the best defence in the WSL. I know that Arsenal have also conceded just the 8, but they played 2 games less. So the fact we played 2 games more means the goals per game ratio would be doing better. Do you two think there's an argument? And are you impressed with the way that Manchester United have been defensively? Would you have stuck specifically around the defence with that or not? Because I felt like there was a really good argument to be made for the United back five, taking up the entirety of that back five this season, because it was only based on this season, not on historical, empirical evidence, in which case then you would absolutely stick Millie Bright there.
That's open to Nancy and to
my voice is killing me.
I think it's tough, isn't it? I think there probably could be the case for that. I don't know if that's in the spirit of a combined 11, but I guess, like, for argument's sake, you probably could. I if that happened, I wouldn't be mad. But I guess it's the comparison of it. I think that while United's defense has been the best in the league, Chelsea also haven't been that bad either. So I think it would be maybe a bit harsh to leave have absolutely no Chelsea defenders in there whatsoever. I know there's been a bit of, I saw this on Twitter previously about Hannah Blundell over Jess Carter. I know there was a bit of maybe dispute about that, which I could maybe, if I was going to change anything, that's probably where I'd put it in. Just in the general 11 as well, I'd love to see Leah Goulton in there, but I don't know where you put her. Like, I agree I agree with that midfield and that attack, so I don't know where you put her, and it's just, I think, shows how the caliber of players in both teams that she can't get in this 11, basically.
Just very quickly, Alex, before you jump in on what you'd change or potentially do with this team, the reason we put Carter in, for people who haven't seen yesterday's, is because we said that Wrighton doesn't track back as well as Galton does. So we needed someone better defensively. That's why we went for Carter on the left, because defensively we kind of all agreed that she's probably better than Blundell, and Wrighton isn't the best at coming back on that left-hand side. And that, obviously midfield and attack is very attacking anyway. We've pretty much got a 4-2-4 going on here. So we needed somebody with a bit more defensive quality. That's why we went for Carter. Just throwing it out there for people who haven't
whether
seen.
we agree with it or not, didn't Serena Wiegman also pick Jess Carter over Hannah Blundell in that recent?
Yeah, Serena we trust.
And she's pretty good, to be fair. She's no slouch.
Alex, is there any changes you'd make to that 11, or do you agree with what we've kind of gone for there?
I'd potentially put in Sophie Ingle, because she has been very consistent for Chelsea this season, and she's been one of those consistent performers over the years. I think it is right to keep Millie Bright in the defence. On a personal level, whether I'm a Chelsea fan or not, I don't think Millie Bright gets the accolades and the appreciation she deserves, especially at the Euros. Yes, everyone talks about Leah Williamson, great, but it was her partnership with Millie Bright that kind of really helped encapsulate that England team. So I think potentially the only change I would make is perhaps go with a back three and have Ingle in instead of Carter. But I will say this: I've seen some 11 sides, particularly in the men's team, where they go like Arsenal and United 11, and it's predominantly Arsenal, and I don't think that's correct. This is, I have to admit, a very, very fair assessment. I think also why I would go with Ingle instead of Carter is Carter's not really had like a firm starting place this season. She's kind of been in and out of the side, so it doesn't really make sense to put her in ahead of someone else. That's just my opinion.
A lot of the comments are agreeing with you, Joseph. They're saying I've never been frustrated on this channel than I was yesterday. See, there was a lot of emotion I saw in the comment and on a tweet when we put it out as well. I get the argument, what Barry was saying as well, the Lad Zellum argument. Again, we went for Lad, but purely because I think defensively she is better. I think she's got better defensive qualities. However, the stats then came out that disproved what I said in terms of Zellum does have better defensive stats this season than Lad. So if I'd have seen that maybe prior to the recording, because we recorded that yesterday at midday, if I'd have seen that stat a bit earlier, I might have gone for Zellum. But yeah, that's what we went for at the time, so I've stuck with it. Everyone's talking about Galton. It was literally by an inch that Wrighton got in ahead of Galton. We certainly had that debate yesterday. However, I think when you're looking at I think, Nancy, you said this is the caliber of player we're talking about here. Toon's not in this squad, and she, one of the best players, that we've got. She doesn't make this team. So there's a lot of players that are going to miss out. But, I appreciate that, Alex, as well, because I think we did do it fairly. 5 and 6 is as even as you can get in a combined 11. So I think,
I think the thing that you did right yesterday was to change the formation. Originally you had that little base single pivot in front, behind the two midfielders, and then the three up top. And actually, what you did this time was just to modify it, because there's no way I think you can have a conversation this season about Manchester United and Chelsea without bigging up Sam Kerr and Leslie Russo. Sam Kerr is always going to score goals. We saw it last season at Kingsmeadow. To our misfortune, but Leslie Russo's been absolutely superb this season as well. I don't think that Manchester United have had a standout right attacker this season, whereas we all know what Lauren James can do. There's not a Manchester United fan sat here who doesn't know that Lauren James was a fantastic player who we all wish could have stayed at Manchester United, because let's be honest, if she had, she'd be doing what she's doing for Chelsea now for us. But there you go. The Wrighton and Galton discussion would have gone on forever. Ultimately, there has to be, and that's the thing with these combined 11s. It's a good job we haven't got Benny on the channel today doing this, because you'd still be talking about how much he hates them. But I think on this one, you've got to have a little bit of give and take and a little bit of understanding that we are talking about a side that, this time last year we're getting ready to go and win yet another title. And I suppose really the question that I'd said to Connor that I was going to throw to you guys again here on this is, do you see a difference between Manchester United of last year and previous years to this Manchester United, because I think if we'd done this last year, I don't think there'd have been quite as many Manchester United players making the 11 as there was this time. It was a 6-5 split, I think, if I counted correctly yesterday, with the 6 going to Chelsea and the 5 going to United. And I think that shows just how much we've grown in the course of a year. But I'm really intrigued to see from people that don't watch us, because we're a United fan channel. I'm always going to be biased. I'm always going to think Manchester United are better, no matter how much I try and dial it down a bit for this channel in the hopes of appearing somewhat like I am capable of being professional. But the simple fact is, I hope we're going to go out there and smash everybody. And I believe that we can, because I'm a football fan and that's what we do. So I'm really intrigued to find out what you two think about Manchester United, whether or not you think we really have progressed this season, because I think it's been like night and day, really.
I think I said, like, at the beginning of the season on the women's football podcast, I said, I think United can get European football, because there just seemed to be a sort of shift in mentality. They came back from the end of last, they came back a lot fresher, a lot sharper. So I was like, definitely. And to get a win over Arsenal is a big thing. Perhaps in the Manchester derby, it'll come at some point, because I know it's happened. Perhaps not in the league. I'm not 100% certain on that. But there's been a lot of draws or City wins, and they're definitely pushing City and going toe-to-toe with them. I don't think City this season really knew what to do with it. So as a complete neutral, not invested in any Manchester club, United have been the team, other than Villa, that have really impressed me, because United have sort of, over the past few seasons, they've kind of been like that analogy of the little engine that could. They've always been close to European football, but just missed out. And this season, I think they will 100% pip City to the post. They might win the league. They might finish second. Who knows? But they'll definitely be in the top 3. And it's really exciting to see from a Chelsea fan perspective. I know Emma Hayes has come out with some comments saying perhaps the WSL needs to be a closed league. Yes, I love Emma Hayes. Everyone knows that I don't necessarily agree with that. I think a better way to sort of do that, to make the league more competitive, would be to potentially expand it, get rid of so many friendlies in between, and then have it so that 3 teams perhaps go up, 3 teams go down, because then it makes it more hungry in terms of, you want to fight for that European spot. You know, you want to be challenging your Chelseas, your Arsenals, your Cities. You don't want it to be the same 3 in the top every year. So I think, you know, United have done phenomenally well. I think also part of the key was keeping hold of Russo in that January transfer window, because had she have gone to, say, Arsenal, would we perhaps be seeing United be so consistent? I don't know. I'm not a clever one. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see into the future. But I think keeping hold of Russo is key. But I do think, you know, players are willing to play for the badge this season a lot more. Like, you see the passion from Ella Toone, Alessia Russo, Hayley Ladd, Leah Galton, and it's not something I've really seen before from United players. Yeah, you get some of them, but it seems like it is a team that is united, excuse the pun, but they are, you know, there just seems to be that cohesion this season. So I've been incredibly impressed.
Yeah, I think I've been the same. I think to me it seems like it's a bit of a, like, it's been a project. I think Man United women have been a project in the making for like a few years. Obviously, you know, came up from the Championship, and there's always been like a decent squad there, but I think it's now that the project has actually, you know, come true. And you've had last season, I think it was a decent squad, but there were just bits missing. Like, I've seen in the comments a few comments about the central defenders like Letitia and Amy Turner, Millie Turner, sorry. I always get those 2 mixed up. Millie Turner. Yeah, I think it's just tweaking the squad to get those players in, so then you've got the perfect 11. And I think by extension, once you've got those players in, it raises the game of everyone, really. I think one of the differences for me this year with United is the midfielders. They were good last season. I think the likes of like Hayley Ladd, Leah Goulton, Katie Zellum, like you would say they were good midfielders, but I think when they've got those world-class players around them, you've got like Batya in defence doing really well. You've got Russo up top doing really well. You've got Erch in goal, who's like now, well, officially the best keeper in the world. I think it's raising the game of everyone. You've got that squad now that's capable of titles and stuff. But I think it's less like, I think it is just the fact that it's just a team and squad that's been tweaked kind of since United have come up into the Women's Super League, and like we're finally seeing those years of kind of tweaking and additions and kind of getting rid of the players that aren't doing so well. This is the final product now, essentially, and it should be, the product for the next few seasons. I'd think, I know Alex mentioned Russo there, that if United win the league, there's no reason why Russo wouldn't stay or Batya wouldn't stay. They're going to stay at a league winning club, and yeah, I think it's just the culmination of a project that's been kind of years in the making, really.
It's certainly interesting. You talk about obviously it being a project. That's some United fans like to hear that, some don't. When you're talking about the fact that we are still a newish team into the league, people forget how short it is. I know that other clubs have done more, maybe in terms of going into the chat. I think Roma are the same age as us, and I think they're obviously already in the Champions League. But I think when you're looking at the two London clubs in particular, in Chelsea and Arsenal.
Oh my God, you had a mare there.
I was going to say,
could not be geographically worse with that, could you?
No, yeah, I don't know why I said City. It's because I was thinking of Chelsea in my head, and it was just, I don't know why. But anyway, but Barry, I was actually going to throw this back over to you because a couple of the comments that you asked the question, but a couple of the comments kind of agreeing what you were saying and talking about the back line. I know Nancy briefly mentioned it there, talking about the defence. Something I wanted to mention from the last meeting, obviously when we played Chelsea, that 3-1 defeat, we were in that game. At half time, we were solid in that game. In the back line, obviously, I know Arnold was missing in that one, so obviously a big miss, who is obviously back for this weekend. But is that the key for this one? We've defended well this season, as you said, one of the best defensive stats in Europe, a joint top in the WSL. But is that going to be the key this weekend? The fact that we can't make mistakes, for the full 90 minutes. Defense is good. It was good for 45 minutes in the last game, but it needs to be like that for 90 this time for us to actually get something from
it. It's tricky because we've spoken about it on this channel before. Chelsea is a game that I think just feels different. Every other game in the WSL that we play seems to be no problems. You don't have any dramas with it. We've beaten Arsenal before. We've got points off of City. We've done well against all of those other teams. We just don't do very well against Chelsea. So as a result of that, I think it puts a bit of a mental block, not necessarily on the players, but on the fans. And I think that can transmit to the players because those fans then go to the match fully aware of the fact that it's hope more than anything else. I think we've gone to a lot of games this season and it's not been hope. We really felt like we've got a team that's capable of going out there and getting a win. I think the Arsenal game was a huge turning point for us. We got the lead. That was all good. And then, of course, 1-0 at half-time, we're all bouncing. Half-time, straight away, they go and equalise, and then they take the lead. And it would have been easy to just go, well, here we go again. Same story, different day. But it didn't happen this time, yes, it took a little bit of last-minute trickery and superb pinpoint accuracy, but we've not given up this season. And I think that game against Chelsea proved to be just an abnormality. It wasn't the norm because it's the only game we've lost all season. We could have crumbled after that. We didn't. I think that what our team has got has already been said, thankfully, by Alex and Nancy, is that we are united. We are together. There's been so much rubbish, just absolute bilge thrown out over the Bird app about what is going on at this football club. And you only have to use your eyes. That's all you've got to do. Just look at what you see on that pitch. And that is not a group of players that are interested in anything other than doing their best for this football team. That game against Chelsea was 3 defensive mistakes. That's what Chelsea will do. Even last year, It was defensive mistakes. It was poor positioning. Sam Kerr scored an absolute worldie of a goal, it looked like, but Mary Apps was out of position. And Mary Apps on a goal line just tips it over the bar, no problem whatsoever. Everybody to beat Chelsea is going to need to be a 7, 8, 9 out of 10. Simple as that. We can't afford for mistakes because Chelsea are just one of those really... I would liken Chelsea like, when you go for a picnic and everything's beautiful, it's wonderful, and you sit down, you open up your picnic basket, you get out your sandwiches, bottle of wine, maybe if you're having that, whatever you feel like having, it's all there. You're loving life. You're having a wonderful time. And then along comes the wasp. Chelsea are the wasp. The question is, do we have that nice little sweet treat to catch the wasp so that we can cover them up and get them out of our hair for this particular game? And that's the thing. They are just an annoying football team that will take advantage of any chance you give them. We've got to respect that, but also we need to play like the Manchester United team that we are, because if we play as well as we've been playing this season, there's no reason we can't beat them. But it's not going to be easy. Not at all.
No, I tend to agree with that. Interesting analogy, though. I was wondering how the hell are you going to bring this back around to United?
They are. Because they land on everything. Once you put away the sandwiches, they land on the bloody cakes. They're everywhere. Just don't leave you alone. Don't go on that part of the pitch. Go and look after Sam Kerr. Oh, Brighton's going to have a go at you now. Even if they're all doing rubbish, the goalkeeper saves the bloody ball. It's a nightmare, Connor.
No, I do agree with what you're saying, because I think every single game, I'm with you. I think, oh yeah, we're going to win this. We're going to win this. Every time Chelsea roll around, I'm like, oh, I'll take a draw. I never ever think we're going to beat them because we haven't. We've never seen it, and until we do, I don't think it's always going to be like this. I mean, it will still be tough after we've beaten them once, but until we get over that, and just before I come to a kind of a quick fiery question, I want to actually ask that to Nancy and to Alex in terms of what you think it is. Do you think it is pure? Do you think it's a player quality issue that has been in the past, or do you think it is that mental block that United players, I think, because again, we were leading at half-time at Kingsmeadow last season. We've had close games, under Casey, it was close at Kingsmeadow during the COVID season. 0-0 at half-time last season, earlier in the year, earlier in this season. So it's been close, and then it just seems to fall away, and we always seem to lose. So, I mean, do you think it is a mentality thing rather than a player quality issue? We know Chelsea have got the quality that Barrett just mentioned there alone, but do you maybe think it's a bit more than that for United Chelsea?
I think it's 50-50, to be honest, because mentality does play a key role. But when you've got one of the world's best players in Sam Kerr in your team, like you could be if we look at the last game of the season, last season, United were 2-1 up at half time. Then some Sam Kerr brilliance brings it level. Then Wrighton with a quick goal, and then Sam Kerr with another outrageous goal. So I think it is a combination of the mental side of things and the sort of players that both United and Chelsea have in their artillery, because we can all go on about how great Sam Kerr is, but if she's having an off day, there'll be a Lauren James who'll be there, Igor Wrighton, even perhaps Arnold Clark Cup Golden Boot winner from last year, Millie Bright will be there. There are options for Chelsea. That's not to say there's not for United, but it seems like they are fairly reliant on Russo. So if she has a quiet game, are the likes of Toon going to step up? Because but United, like I said, they have impressed me. So perhaps it will be a little bit closer than it has been before. Like I said at the beginning of this, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because it just depends how Chelsea play within the first 5 minutes. Because if they kind of play like the way they did against Arsenal in the Conti Cup, then it doesn't bode well. But if they play like they did against Brighton, then it's definitely game on. So I think you never know, especially with Emma Hayes not being on the sidelines. Denise Reddy, when she has been on the sidelines in place of Emma Hayes, she's done a good job. So maybe, Denise and Emma are obviously very, very different characters. Maybe perhaps, having Denise there is sort of more of a calming presence might help Chelsea a little bit more in comparison to Hayes. But also, if Chelsea are on it, because they'll be incredibly irritated, not just that they lost the Conti Cup final to Arsenal, the manner in which they lost it, it was just poor all-round play. They're going to want to rectify that, and they've done that to some extent against Brighton, and they're going to want to do it against United because they don't want to give up that. They don't want to lose to United. They don't want to give up that record of never having lost to them. So I do expect it to be closer, but I think Chelsea may just edge it, but like very, very minimally edge it.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy, just throw a question over to yourself before we look to kind of move this on slightly. Do you think, the original question had talking about mentality or player quality? I know that, like I said, Chelsea have got that strong squad, but like the games I mentioned, the previous two meetings, it's not like we've been overrun and been battered in the games. We've been, there or thereabouts, and it's, it's embarrassing that, especially at the LSV meeting earlier in the season, it was poor passing out from the back. Gave the ball away, 2 quick goals. Chelsea go 2 up. I know we pulled one back then, but obviously we were never really back in control of the game. Do you think maybe it is a little bit of mentality from United thinking, like we're in this a little bit, or at the last game of last season we were in it, we're ahead, potentially playing on some of the players' minds?
Yeah, I think so, and I think just from an Arsenal perspective, that I feel like I think every team has that mentality when it comes to Chelsea, just because they've always been known as like the team with the strongest squad or the team to beat, essentially. But I do think it could be potentially the best time for United to play Chelsea. I think there's a lot of things they can take from it to change that mentality. I think the fact that Chelsea have been beaten so recently and played so poorly, and there's kind of like almost a blueprint of what to do. I know that Chelsea players will probably be keen, like Alex said, to come out and fix that. But I do feel like United, it will also give United hope, I guess, that they can also do the same as Arsenal. So I feel like, yes, I do feel like mentality probably has come into it. I think Chelsea are just an intimidating team. There's no getting around that. They are always the team to beat. But I think the fact that United are in such good form, like players like Russo are in such good form, and then Chelsea are wavering a bit. And at the end of the day, United are the ones at the top of the table. Like in this situation, United are the ones to beat. So I don't know whether this match we might start to see a bit of shift in that mentality. I think if United win, then it definitely will. But yeah, I think for your sake, Man United fans' sake, it would be nice, I think, to see United be able to take confidence, I think, into the match as the team that are top of the table. I think the players should definitely be able to take that confidence into the game.
I think what I'm hearing here, Connor, is that as with all good Wasps, what you're going to need to do is to take the sting out of the game.
I mean, we did that very well at LSV for most parts. And like I said, 2 quick Chelsea goals. You're 2-0 down. We get 1 back from, funny enough, what our goal against Chelsea in the LSV game was essentially how they scored off us. They were poor passing it around at the back. Tooney nicks it off. Somebody, I can't remember who she nicked it off, now plays it in through, so we score. So I'm all for making it a scrappy game. So I think that would favour us a little bit more. I expect a lot of time wasting from United as well. Sorry, Alex, but I think you're going to probably see that from United a bit. Marriott's falling on the floor and etc. I think we're probably going to see a little bit of that, because 100% I'm taking a draw out of this. If we can get our first point, I think that from a mentality point of view, bringing it back to that, I think even if we get a point, it changes that switch, because we've never got a point away from Kingsmeadow. So I think that changes slightly.
I think as well about what Rob was saying in your show yesterday, the fact that in that last game of the season, we outran them in that first half. We were a surprise. Nobody was expecting it. The stand was bouncing. It was rocking. We were absolutely feeling like this is it. This is our moment. And they came out second half and just absolutely obliterated us. And that's the difference, is that they have that ability to do that, which has got to be for the full 90. You can't just go in and stick in a 45-minute performance. Everyone is going to have to be at it.
No, I agree on that one. I mean, there's a comment a bit further up. John Fry is asking the important questions, and I'm not going to spend ages on this because this is a running theme on this channel, and this is usually where I get the taken out of me. I'm trying to find it now. Where even is it? Oh, he didn't actually put the question in. Oh, no, there it is. So, I'm not going to give any context. I'm just going to ask you the question to see what your answer is first, and then I'll add the context afterwards.
Is this? Oh, I saw this question. I thought it was like the Man United players, whether they've been asked about their burgers. Okay, how I eat my burger? Is this like toppings?
No. How would you get it from the plate to your mouth?
Pick it like this.
Yeah, about right.
Unless it's really stacked. If it's really stacked, I will cut it in half, and then. Yes. But otherwise, yeah.
All right, not bad. 7 out of 10. Yeah.
I mean, I just pretty much just eat it with my hands and put it to my mouth. I just don't think it's like. Is he like asking this like in case we eat with like knives and forks and stuff? Because that's a bit.
Who would do that, right? What sort of an absolute psychopath would do that, Alex?
That's a bit too bougie for my taste. That's a bit too like high end for me personally. If it's like a pizza from Pizza Express, go nuts. But a standard burger, if you cut it with a knife and fork, unless you're in like some posh restaurant, you're an absolute weirdo.
Well,
anytime you like.
I've never been called that, Alex, but thank you. So that's why he asked, because, I am. Me and Sarah in the comments, we're keen advocates of this movement, so we're going to keep pushing it, even though people don't agree with it, that you shouldn't be using your hands. You should be using knives and forks, because it's just better that way. There we go. Yeah, see? Sarah's with me. Clearly classy people. That's why.
What do you do in McDonald's when there aren't knives and forks?
Well, that's the only place I don't, because that's really weird. But most, if you go into the Harvester or somewhere like that, 100%, I'm never using my hands. Like 100%, you're going to get a knife and fork out for that. But there's your answer, John. I hope that. I mean, again, I'm outvoted. I never expect to be invoted. I've got to be honest on these things. I've only found 2 people.
I never sat here on a show with you, and I'm outdone by the amount of people that I'm leaving. I'm going straight off the show, and you can have it to yourself for that day, because I do not want to be associated with that ever. Outrageous.
There will be somebody else who comes on this year that agrees with me. I'm telling you, somebody somewhere.
Yeah, I understand. That's what you've been doing for the entirety. That's actually what you do. It's nothing to do with Wolf United. You're just searching for like-minded people that eat burgers with knives and forks. Madness.
Well, while
we're at it, Connor, is there any truth to the rumours? Have the BBC been in touch yet about you possibly going on to host Match of the Day? Is that while we're here?
I'd say no at this rate. So if they do, then I'll just say the same as the rest of them.
Yeah, not quite. The call's not come through to me yet, unfortunately, Barry. But I think my answer would be the same as everyone else right now. So no, not quite. Got a little bit of a different question. We asked this on the last one. There is a question in the comments I'll come to in a second. I can't remember who it was from. Peter, I'll come back to your comment in a second. But Alex and Nancy, we asked our guests at the time on the last Chelsea one about this question. It's a nice little funnish question, I guess, because it gets you thinking a little bit. In terms of, so the parameters of the question, you can swap one player from United and Chelsea. You transfer one player across. But by doing so, you then remove that player from the starting 11. So if you're moving Kerr across to United, Russo then gets put to the bench. There's no, you can't just move them around to fit them in and everything else. And they've got to start. You can't pick a player to replace someone on the bench. It's got to be someone from the starting 11. So Alex, from your point of view, who are you taking from United that then goes into Chelsea's starting 11?
Oh, that is an interesting question. Who would I pick? Probably Earps, I would say, which I know is a bit of a interesting one, but I think statistically this season and over the past year or so, she's probably been better. And in fact, she has been better than both Berger and Musovic. So I'd probably go with Earps.
You know what? I was not expecting that for some reason, but that is a good shout. I can't remember who Rob and Alina said at the time. They both said Honor, I think, Barry. I think. I can't remember now. I'm going back a lot longer than my memory will allow. But Nancy, from yourself, if you want to answer, well, you can answer it from both teams. To be fair, if you want to, who you would swap, who you think would improve United and improve Chelsea.
I was thinking Honor for from going from Man U to Chelsea, just having witnessed the Conti Cup match. I think Chelsea were crying out for a player like Honor, I think, in their defence. I think Earps is a great shout though, especially because I feel like Chelsea, just that's probably one of Chelsea's weaknesses at the moment. Other way around, I'll say what every Man United fan would love, but Lauren James, I think back into the United team. I think obviously United's attack is great, but I think any team in the world would have Lauren James in the form she's in now. She's just an astonishing player, and it is one of those players where you could be having the worst match in the world, and then she'll just get on the ball and do something crazy. So I think, that's a no-brainer for me. And there's a lot of other positions I think that United have that I wouldn't necessarily like. Maybe you could put Kerr in over, but then you've got Russo. So, you've got while Kerr is maybe more established, you've got such a good striker already. And I feel like United, as we've seen with that starting 11, do match Chelsea's for a lot of players. But I'd like to see Lauren James. That'd be quite cool.
I think it's a fair shout, Barry, to be fair, because in the reverse one, I can't remember who.
Well,
I may have been right again.
I remember who I said Erin Cuthbert was my last one, but I would actually change that now. I feel like our midfield has been good enough. I'm a big fan of the holy trinity of Toon, Zellum and Ladd, so I would stick with those three, and I would get ready, John Fry. You might want to record this moment. I would agree with John Fry and stick Lauren James out on the right wing. As I said, it's the only space that I don't think we've really got someone who's nailed down that position and said, this is mine. Mary is absolutely going to be the goalkeeper. The back four stays the same. That midfield trio should remain the same. Maybe Vilda Boris ahead of Toon if she doesn't get out of this little funk that she's been in. But that's marginal. I'd still say you start Toon against Chelsea. So for me, Russo, Galton's been awesome this season. It's the only space available. And it just so happens that the player they've got playing there is an absolute baller. So there we go. We'll take that one.
Yeah. To be fair, I agree. I think I said Brighton on the last one, but Galton has since turned into a phenomenal player again this season. So even though I love watching Brighton, I wouldn't swap that. LJ makes the most sense, although kissing the badge at LSV, yes, and holding her. Yeah, she
wasn't kissing the badge; she was wiping her nose. It was cold that day.
She likes holding her fingers at what the score is, don't she? She did that quite a few times. She did it at LSV against us, which wasn't appreciated, right in front of the standing terrace. But still, I think most United fans would have her back. I like that though. I like the fact that she's a little bit like, on the edge like that, because I'd rather that than players that aren't. I got to be honest. I think that's why a lot of United fans, like McCabe, players like that walk that kind of tight line of being a little bit over the edge and a little. Yeah, I think it's not too bad. What's that? Oh, I was just reading Paul's comment about McCabe as I was saying that. Look what you've done, Mary. I'm still.
I'll be quiet for the rest of the podcast now. So
that was the question I was trying to find. Very quickly, Barry, on that one, I think I know your answer because you've pretty much just answered it in that one. Question for do you think United start the same team against Leicester, or do we bring Cascarino in?
I'm glad you brought this up. It's absolute madness. You just go into the biggest game of the season and you're like, let's just take out some players that have been playing every game and just whack in somebody who's had about 25 minutes. Anybody who wants to do that, take head, wobble it, and then come back, because that's absolute crazy talk. Doing so many other games, you don't do that against Chelsea. I mean, no. Mark, no.
No, I think that's, I wouldn't either. Not in this game. Maybe against Leicester you make your changes, and another team you don't do it away at Chelsea. No chance. So I'll read another comment there. I think we come to. I've lost my questions again. I do apologise. It is usually more. I would say it's usually more professional. It isn't. Barry, that's what I was going to ask you very quickly on the midfield. Obviously, you mentioned Ella Toon there. Is that the only place, if you can see any changes from a United point of view, that it's potentially Toon comes out, Barisi goes in?
I don't expect there to be a change then. I expect Ella Toon to start because it's Ella Toon we're talking about here. And she possesses the ability to change a football match with just one swipe of that right foot wonder leg that she's got. So, no, it would be a madness to take her out, I think. Having said that, Vilda Barisa is definitely knocking at the door. I would start with Toon, and if it's not working, then you've got the opportunity to bring Vilda on, which is good, because if we're 1-0 down perhaps and chasing, that gives us something even more to fight for. The reason I don't think Vilda will start is because Marc Skinner has made a lot of noises about her defensive work, and we know we're going to have to defend a fair bit against Chelsea. So I would imagine that Ella Toon's legs will be required, getting backwards and forwards for that. So based on his words, that's what I would expect.
No, I tend to agree with that. A player that we were just talking about, Alex, I wanted to come to you about, obviously, Lauren James. What have you made of her this season? Because obviously last season she was kind of, in that Chelsea, there was a lot of talk around her, maybe not living up to the price tag and all those kinds of things that maybe surrounded it. I know the price tag's not her fault, but obviously this season, what have you made of her?
I think she's been really impressive this season. I know last season, I think she was injured for about half of it, so she didn't perhaps get as many minutes as she would have liked. I think it's a big step for her to take the number 10 shirt this season, because Ji So-yeon was such an important player, such a pivotal player who wore the number 10 shirt for Chelsea. And she seems to be doing well so far. I would sometimes like her to be a bit more, not proactive, but I think take some time and care when she is making decisions, because sometimes they are a bit haphazard. But I think for her, she's just enjoying her football, She's got a big brother at the club. Her big Reece James bleeds Chelsea blue, probably going to be the future captain. That can only help Lauren, because he can help her with things like when she made her England debut. They are the first brother-sister sibling duo to make their debut for England. So it's only a positive thing, not just for the club, but for them themselves. But Lauren has really impressed me. She looks very technically very good. She looked very good against Glasgow when she came on. When I saw her, she looked pretty good against Arsenal at the Emirates. She was absolutely outstanding with that goal against Spurs, went past about 6 players. So she's got that ability, and it's just about Emma Hayes helping her sort of channel it more proactively, because I know everyone's going, oh, she's amazing, she's this. Yes, she is, but she needs to learn to be more consistent. And I do think, in the form that she's in, it'd be an absolute mistake for her to not go to the World Cup. But she just needs to be consistent, because she's got the ability. It would be nice for her to score a few more goals and have a few more assists to really help lift her confidence. Not that she needs much help in that department.
I wasn't laughing at your comment. I was looking at that one because I was reading, John, I'm sorry, you're starting 11 for United. That's a horrendous show. I'm sorry. I don't like insulting people's opinions on what the team should be, but that, I don't even know if I want to bring it on screen, but no. Sorry, John. No chance. Yeah, but no, you make fair points on Jay. I think because there's certain players that people just don't like to criticize. I think we were having this conversation yesterday on the show that we did, and I think James is one of those that potential I think is off the scale, but there is still that improvement there, albeit she's having a great season, certainly in with that World Cup, obviously with Mead out as well. It's a lot up for grabs from that point of view. But Nancy, throwing it back over to yourself, what do you want from this taking your journalist hat off for a second? What do you want from this from an Arsenal point of view? Because, we spoke before about obviously this being potential, not title deciding, but certainly makes a big impact. United and Chelsea have both still got to play Arsenal. So if you're going to win the league, obviously you're going to have to beat obviously United and Chelsea at the time. But what are you hoping from this? Is a draw maybe the best outcome? Do you want a United win to take points off Chelsea to bring them closer to you, or how are you feeling going into it from that point of view?
Yeah, I think a draw has to be the best outcome, really, because it's essentially for Arsenal now. I think it's a case of no one team getting too far ahead. Like, we've got to keep both teams the fact that we've still got both of the teams to play is great, because if it is a draw and we can get results against Chelsea United later in the season, that's obviously a big if. But, you know, I think keeping both teams as close as possible would be good. I think if that wasn't the case, if it wasn't a draw, I think I would just probably prefer a United win. Mainly because of what we were talking about earlier about Chelsea being such an intimidating team. I think it just changes the narrative around Chelsea. Like, I think Chelsea win on the weekend, and I think everyone's kind of going to be like, okay, that's it. Like, you know, there might not be any catching of them, whatever. But I think if United win, it really just keeps it wide open. It keeps the narrative of Chelsea being so intimidating and scary. It really kind of squashes that down. And yeah, I think I would rather, this is no slight, this is my own like scared mentality of Chelsea. There's nothing to do with the quality of Man U this season, but I would be more confident at getting points again at Manchester at LSV than Chelsea at Kingsmeadow. And again, that's not, I think Man United have potentially been better on the pitch than Chelsea this season, but again, we've all spoken about it, this mentality that Chelsea are, you know, always going to bulldoze everyone. So yeah, for me, draw, then a United win. I think a Chelsea win would, I think everyone would just kind of be like, oh, okay, you know, this is Chelsea winning the league again. It would just kind of maybe demoralise a lot of teams in the title race and make things less exciting. So yeah, that's what I'm going with. And like I said, the Arsenal, us beating, whether it's possible to beat you guys, that's not a slight on United. I think it is just this hang up that we've got against Chelsea, as you guys also do. So yeah,
I think, yeah, well, Chelsea, if they win, obviously will go 2 points ahead of us with a game in hand as well. So that would effectively not put us out of the title race. We'd still be slightly in it, but it would be very difficult from there. We'd be relying, obviously, on other teams. I know that Peter's just put in the chat, United are 6 points ahead of Arsenal. I think you've still got a game in hand over us, though. So obviously you win that. You go 3 behind us with, obviously, the game at LSV as well. So it's, I think if I took my United hat off, obviously I would still want a United win or a draw to keep the title race going. There you go, Alex's drop. To keep the title race going, because I think if Chelsea win, I think that all but seals it, because I can't see Chelsea losing 2 games between now and the end of the season. So yeah, it's a tough one on that one. I was just going to ask you, Barry, one more question before we get predictions and wrap this one up, because I know you've got another show in 8 minutes' time. There was a lot of talk in the chat.
A real taskmaster.
There's I'm not. Anyway, there was a lot of chat in the comments a second ago talking about the right wing and potentially who would start there, because you mentioned that it's the only position we haven't got nailed down. Who would you be starting on the right hand side? Because Paris, Garcia, Thomas. I mean, there was some talk of Leon, but I really can't see that. Who would you start out of those 3 on the right hand side?
Garcia.
There we go. We're in agreement on that one as well.
To me, she's been the best in that position going forward, so she's what I go for.
Yeah, that's fair, but yeah, there's obviously some talk about. Oh, Alex is back just in time.
Just in time, indeed.
There we go. Thanks for coming back, Alex.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi literally just cut. My Wi-Fi always cuts out at the most inopportune times.
Well, you're just in time for predictions, because I'm going to come to each of you before we wrap this one up on your prediction for the weekend, scoreline wise. And if you want to name some goal scorers, yeah, go for it as well. And Alex, I'll throw to you first.
I think it will be 2-1 to Chelsea. I think Sam Kerr will score, because Sam Kerr is inevitable at this point in terms of scoring goals. She just scores goals for fun. The second Chelsea goal could be anyone between Kankovic, Bryson, Cuthbert, James. Could be one of those, or it could just be someone completely unexpected. That it could be, for all we know, it could be Buchanan. 'Cause to my knowledge, I don't think she's got, she's not registered a goal yet for Chelsea. So you never know. She might just kind of do it for the vibes. And I think if United score, which I probably think they will, it'll probably be Russo or Toon or potentially even Leah Galton. So one of those 3 will probably score for United, but I think it will be 2-1 to Chelsea. I think Chelsea will just edge it.
Yeah, I don't think many fans would. You mentioned a player there, and we've not even mentioned Kankrid. Some player she is, by the way. I think, especially going into next season, I'll be keeping an eye on her. Some midfielder there. Nancy, what are you going for prediction wise?
I think I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go because this is so hard to call. So I'm just gonna say United 2, Chelsea 1. I think so. I was reading an article by Jesse Parker Humphreys on, I think it's on Opta or something like that, and they pointed out that I think it's Man United are the team that have scored the fastest goals this season. So they've scored 7 goals in the first 15 minutes. That's league leading. So I'm going to say United are going to score early on, maybe like a Letitia header or something like that. I think Chelsea will equalise through Kerr, and then I think Russo this season has just popped up at like the best times. We saw in that the match against Arsenal at the Emirates. I really think she can be a big game player, and she can score those crucial goals. So I'm going to go Russo winner. So yeah, that's my prediction.
Barry, I'm assuming a United win, but by how many are you going? Or are you going to surprise me and go for a draw or something?
I battle with my head and my heart and the past and the future and the present. Man United are going to score first. We're going to get the first, a bit like in the last game. We'll score first, and then we're going to score a second goal. And we'll get to half time. It'll be 2-0. And then Chelsea are going to come out and score a goal, and it'll be 2-1. And everyone's going to poo themselves a bit because that's how the game tends to go. And then just towards the end, somebody's going to pop up with a goal, and it will be Manchester United. I think we're going to win it 3-1.
If that actually happens, by the way, people are going to be accusing us like match fixing or something somehow, because that was some severe detail into how this is going to go.
I don't know if the refs are watching, Connor, but if they are, that's what's going to happen.
Part of me is worried that this is all set up for a 0-0 because everyone is hyping the game. Part of me is a little bit worried that it's just going to come out. Both teams are going to try not to lose, and it's going to be a hard watch. But yeah, I don't think United are going to win, and that pained me to say. I just think Chelsea, especially after losing, a lot of people are saying that that's probably a good thing. I don't think it is. I actually think that's probably a bad thing that Chelsea have lost. Because now, obviously, that 2-2. I'll just go 2-2. I just don't think we've got quite there. But I think, Nancy, you said it earlier. I think this is probably the best time and the best moment we've had to go to Chelsea and get something. And to be honest, if it's a draw, I am more than taking that because that keeps us in the top 3 conversation. Kind of keeps us in the title conversation as well. I know Chelsea with the game in hand, so I'm fully taking a draw. But a lot of people are saying United are going to win. This is probably the most confident I think United fans have been going there, put it that way. But I certainly don't think... No, I'm not going to predict United win. 2-2 I'll go for me. I can see Barrett frantically typing away. I've only just noticed the other show's in 2 minutes for you. That's
literally, yeah. I'm on the other one, and they're all trying to go up because Dan's on there at the minute. And so I'm literally knocking them off. And no, don't talk. Otherwise, you're going to be on this channel as well. Goodness me. The life I...
There we are.
With that in mind, I am going to have to drop off because I told these guys 10 past. So I appreciate your company, girls. Thank you very much. It'll be a good game Sunday. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And we'll be here Monday to dive through the wreckage, whatever happens.
Indeed. Make sure you go and check out the men's channel that are live literally now. By the time Barry gets over there, obviously talking about the game against Real Betis. So make sure you go and check that one out. In just a second. Before we wrap up then, I'll come to Nancy and to Alex if you want to shout anything out for people who may not have seen you before or know where to find any of your stuff that you do or anything else. So Alex, I'll start with yourself. If you want to shout your Twitter handle or anything else that you work on.
Yeah, no worries. If you want to find me on Twitter or see like my rants about Chelsea Football Club, because it's been that kind of season for the men and it's made me at times want to stick pins in my eyes how bad we've been. And then we've had moments of brilliance. I am on Twitter as @AlexJanePereira. And also, if you're into women's cricket or you just like cricket, I have a podcast with some friends called Women's Cricket Chat, and we are on Twitter as @WCricketChat. So check us out, give us a listen. I promise in the women's cricket ones, we don't talk about Chelsea that much. I think it's only been brought up once or twice. So give us a listen and let us know what you think.
Yeah, definitely make sure you go and check that out. It'll be in the description, obviously, after this goes live. Nancy, for yourself.
Yeah, so my personal Twitter is @Nancy_Gillen. And yeah, disclaimer, there is a lot of Arsenal stuff. So if Arsenal men's stuff as well. So if you are a bit bitter about the fact we're top of the league, then you can still follow me, but maybe mute me for the rest of the season. And then, yeah, I work for Give Me Sport Women. So we do a lot of women's football stuff as well as other women's sports. So yeah, just visit our website, or we're on Twitter at Give Me Sport W if you want to give us a follow too.
Definitely go. Are you still doing the space as well, by the way? On that
We
page?
are, yes. There'll be a space about all of the Women's Super League matches on Monday. So there'd almost definitely be some Man United Chelsea chat on there, depending on how the results gone. So yeah, tune into that as well.
Make sure you go and check that one out. We'll be live on this channel again next Monday, obviously, for the Chelsea match reaction at 7 o'clock. You'll see Charlie, obviously, she'll be back on the channel, the usual Monday crew to dissect it, hopefully after a United win, because as I said, we've never done a match reaction show with Chelsea where we've actually won the game, so hopefully this will be a first going into that one. So make sure you're checking all those things out, make sure you're liking the video and subscribing, and we shall see you in the next one.